welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am in the house today with Kimberly Patton Peak. Yes, I am. And she, I don't know if any of you guys have, wear these shirts that I only run when someone's chasing me, or, possibly you hate running. I know, can I get an amen out there for anyone that does not like to run? You might be about to change your mind. Open yourself up to that possibility today, because our next guest used to detest running. She absolutely hated it with a passion, and now she uses that passion to fuel and help others to learn to love running, the very same thing that she almost quit a boot camp class over. So I am very excited to dive in and tell you a little bit more about her. That's just a little backstory to kind of perk your interest. She is the coach and founder of Power of the Run. She loves running, triathlons, and discovering new ways to challenge her fitness level. She is a breast cancer survivor, a dog mom, which I'm about to become today because my family is going to go get my puppy. So excited. She is a mother to 3 girls who love theater and film. She enjoys traveling with her husband and kids, and especially when travel involves the beach. Kim offers online training and coaching for women who want to run a first or fastest 5K, half marathon, or triathlon. Training for endurance events transforms lives. I do attest to that. And Kim helps her clients use her training so they can come out of the experience knowing they can conquer any dream they can imagine. You can find her online at crushingmygoals.com. Welcome, Kim, to the show. I'm all about crushing our goals.
Yes, I'm excited to be here, and that was quite the introduction.
Well, I was having a funky get started on this Facebook Live today. It was being a little funky. The window kept going like this, opening, closing, opening, closing. I'm like, are we live? Are we not live? Are we live?
Technology can be so fun.
Yeah, so we are live, and we are alive, and we're all about crushing goals. Tell me today, what in the world possessed you to start your own running organization? Go back to the story of how much you used to hate running and then how it evolved to now you love running. I love to hear that.
I know, it's kind of crazy, right? Because like you said, so many people love to talk about how they only run when something's chasing them. And I was somebody who always spent time in the gym. I loved working out, but I was not any kind of endurance junkie at all. And my kids were fairly young, and I worked out with a trainer, and we had this nice little group of women, and we would work out together. And I worked out with this trainer who at some point decided that her clients did not have enough cardiovascular fitness, and therefore we would all start running. And I just love telling that story because I love my old trainer that I used to work with. And it's just so funny to think of myself now the way I am as being somebody.
Well, I am so glad you did not quit.
I know. So she decided that we were going to start running, and the track at our gym is 1/10 of a mile. And all she was doing was having us run like one lap, 1/10 of a mile between sets of weights. And I hated it. It made my entire body ache and hurt, and every step was it was painful to me. And I hated it so much, I almost quit working out with her because it just hurt. And I always say it's important to distinguish between the kind of pain that is an injury and the kind of pain that's uncomfortable. This is just uncomfortable and I don't like it. Not, oh my gosh, I'm running on a broken foot kind of pain. But so I stuck with it because I had this group of women that I loved working out with. And so on our off days, I think at the time we only worked out with her 1 day a week. And on our off days, we would get together and work out. And it was just kind of how we lived our lives as moms with young kids. We would pack all the kids up in the morning. All the kids would go to the nursery at the gym, and they all loved it. On days when we had not planned to work out, a lot of times my little girls who were, like before younger, the preschool age at the time, would be like, Mom, it's time to go to the gym, because they had friends that they looked forward to playing with. And
And
they
you're
did all
like,
kinds
oh,
of great.
darn it, I have to go now.
I know. So I'm like, oh yeah, that blew my excuse, right? And so on our off days anyway, we would all work out together, and we would usually do something on the treadmill before going to like a power pump class or a boot camp class or something like that. And I still hated running. And so they would be jogging on the treadmill, and they had all done at least a 5K and maybe one half marathon at the time. And I would always be on like an elliptical or something next to them, or on another treadmill, but just walking, because I was not going to run. And then there was just this day when just something went off. And I looked at them, and at the time I was still 50 pounds heavier than I am right now. And I looked at my friends, and I'm like, these are like, I called them my hot mama friends. I'm like, they're like good looking. They're looking awesome. And there's no excuse for me not to look that way, because we worked out together every day. We ate the same things every day. I mean, we were doing everything together, because that was just how we raised our little kids. And I looked over at them, and I'm like, what are they doing that I'm not? And the answer was running. And so that day the light bulb went off, and I was like, okay, I got to start running. And so these friends, that was in January, and these friends basically pushed me to run just a little bit more and a little bit more every day. And, and then when I got to that point where, okay, I'm done. No, come on, Kim, just one more minute today. And so I had this great group of friends who just pushed me to do a little bit more every single day. So in January, I made that decision, and it was actually a decision I remember making. And then in April of that year, we decided to run our first 5K, or my first 5K, with my friends there as my support. And that was quite the adventure, because one of the biggest rookie mistakes I remember making at the time was we had trained with our trainer the Friday before the Saturday race. And to them, they were more experienced, so it didn't really seem like, oh, this is going to hurt my arms and it's going to hurt to run. And me, it's my first race. I'm still super out of shape. My arms hurt from working out. And I am running this 5K with my friend. My arms barely move because of the weights. And I didn't really have even the best running gear at the time. And I was running, holding my pants, clutching my pants with one hand, because I'd thrown on a pair of sweatpants that were old because it was chilly that morning, and I hadn't worn these pants. And I had dropped like a bunch of weight in that first 4 months of the year from running. And as I was training for this 5K, anyway, my pants were falling down, and I'm running half the race holding my pants. And anyway, so that's the story of how I became a runner and my first 5K.
Well, that leads me to a story in my book, The Sisterhood of Sweat, because just right along with that, which
Yes.
you can get on Amazon. Well, basically, this chapter is entitled, Give Yourself Permission to Suck Until You Don't.
Yeah.
And so I think the story kind of goes along with Kim's story, where I have a boot camp. I'm the trainer. I had a lot of gals. We would run always like at least a mile or a mile and a half right before boot camp. And that day, I had a gal that had been coming for 6 weeks, and another gal, they had come in on a Groupon. And that day, I had a lot of people that had taken my classes from other places. I had, personal trainers, competitors, instructors, like it used to be called Urban Active. They were, the deck was stacked, and with what I like to call superhumans, because it was, they were doing the exercises at the speed of light. They're like, just like, I'm like working. I'm like, let's go, guys, to keep up with my superhumans. And so basically what the story is the gal had been coming 6 weeks doing just fine. Now the superhumans came, so she began to compare herself to others. And she was trying to stay up with their 100th time on her maybe 12th time, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us do that.
Yeah.
And she turned to one gal that's been with me ever since and has lost over 70 pounds and looks phenomenal. And I took her to competition and she got a six pack. I'm telling you what,
Oh, wow.
she looks amazing. She went from being always feeling like she was the last one back, the last, you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
You feel like I'm the slowest one,
Yeah.
or whatever it is you're feeling about yourself, when you first begin, because everyone has to have their beginning. And it isn't always easy and it isn't always pretty. And so here we are, we're going out for the run. And I guess the one gal, the 6 weeker, turned to my gal that's been with me for, 5, 6 years now. She says, what do you think about, I can't keep up with these girls. She's like, what do you think about this? And she said, well, I'm not worried about anyone else. I'm just trying to get in shape.
Yeah.
And so she is now. The other gal quit. So, and never came back. And so what I'm saying, there's so many lessons in this to wrap your head around.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, your first time you can't compare to somebody's 100th time. Second of all, never, it's your own race, stay in your own zone, never compare yourself to others. If you're sweating and you're running and you're doing better every time, eventually you're going to be the one that other people are looking to. You just have to give yourself grace to suck. Give yourself permission to
Yeah.
suck until you don't. And that's the whole lesson in that, is just, and also never quit, right? Just like wrap your head around, it's not easy right now, but if I keep at this, I'm going to achieve my goals and I'm going to get to where I want to be. And maybe ask questions of people like, how did you get in such good shape? Or, what are things I can do to go not from A to Z, but what's the in between steps to get
Great.
me there? So that was my little story. And do you have anything to add, Miss Kim?
Oh boy, I know. I think you hit on a bunch of really important things, and just to always keep going one step at a time. I think as somebody who is a coach now, that is one of the things that I really talk to people about is you don't really want to compare to somebody else who's qualified for the Boston Marathon when you're a baby runner just learning how. I mean, there's so many things you have to learn, and it's a process. You can't develop that level of fitness overnight, which is one of the things I love about training for, especially a longer distance race like a marathon. You can't fake that level of fitness. It takes commitment, because I don't know very many people who could even wake up and walk 26.2 miles. I mean, it takes training.
In mindset.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
all about your
absolutely.
mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mine's
You
one of
know,
my favorite topics.
yeah, totally. Just what that's the other thing is, I think when you begin a journey and you make a significant change in your life, it all starts right here between your two ears with your mindset, because that is what rules everything else. So you got to get your mind right to get your body tight.
Yes, absolutely. And I think related to that is also setting up your environment for success.
Oh, for
So,
sure.
using your calendar and scheduling things and finding those fitness buddies who are going to hold you accountable. Or maybe if you know that you're somebody who needs to pay money to be accountable, that you hire a good trainer or coach to keep pushing you and helping you learn. All of those things in your environment. If it's your nutrition that you're trying to change, you don't go to the grocery store and stock your house full of processed junk food. You go buy fruits and vegetables. So whatever it is you're trying to change, you need to set your environment up for success and make sure you have also the people around you who will support you to help you be successful. And
Yeah,
sometimes And sometimes that's hard because the people in your life don't always want you to make those changes.
Oh, no, no, no. And making a list of where your weaknesses lie, what they are, because we all have them, and just acknowledge that you have weaknesses. It's okay to have a weakness. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just find a strategy that helps you to get to the goal that you have. If your husband's snacking on the couch next to you makes you want to snack, and you know that it's going to make you want to snack when he's eating whatever, you've got to have some healthy snacks. Then something to that you know that you're going to snack. Well, just have something that you like that is better for you to snack on. And I think just having the strategies for when you're invited to a party, do you bring a
Yes.
dessert that is user friendly? I mean, like it meets your criteria, and share it
Hmm.
with others, because I'm sure other people at your barbecue or party, there's a lot of people that want to eat healthy, and if you bring something, you'll be surprised how many people will dive into that. And don't be afraid. Like sometimes you'll get made fun of on your journey. It's peer pressure, because you're shining a flashlight, you're changing, and it might make people that aren't changing just a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah,
you
it's kind of like when you go out to eat lunch with somebody and they know that you're a fitness coach or whatever it is, it's your profession in that field, and they know that you watch what you eat and you work out. And have you ever been to lunch with somebody who's like they apologize for the whatever it is that they're eating that they think is unhealthy? And I'm always like, I don't care what you eat. You eat whatever you want. I'm eating this way
they
because
think you're
I want
judging
my
them.
own health.
They're feeling judged by you
Yeah,
eating
right.
healthy. They're feeling judged. But you're not judging them, but they're feeling like you're judging
Right.
them. Yeah. Yeah. And there's this fear of judgment on both sides. I think too, sometimes people will razz you. Oh, what's you got there, Mitchell? Green beans again, broccoli, what you bring with you. And you just have to kind of toughen up your skin to not worry about what other people think, because ultimately it's your health, your body, your goals. And if you stick to them, you're going to bring other people along for the ride.
Right. Well, and your palate really does get used to the way that you choose to eat. So, there's certain things that I don't eat anymore that if somebody's eating it in front of me, I mean, I don't even think about it because it's not even something I crave anymore.
Yeah, and they're going to get used to you eating that way to where you can't slide.
That's true too.
You're like, I'm
Oh,
stuck
yeah.
now. It's expected that I bring the broccoli or the green beans or whatever I was bringing. This was a lot of times when my son had baseball, because I think baseball parks are the worst. And I don't know, I get off on on a soapbox, but I get upset because they tell you you can't bring anything in, and they don't sell anything remotely healthy, and these kids are playing select baseball, or whatever, they're however many games. I mean, we would play 5 games in a day. So you literally can't bring anything into the ballpark, so you have to eat what? Hot dogs, potato chips, candy, like
Soda. Don't forget the soda.
Coke. I mean, so that's not healthy for your kids, it's not healthy for you. So I kind of buck the system a lot. So I think if you want to be healthy, you have to plan ahead, because it's not just going to show up for you out there perfectly designed the way you want it to be.
Hmm.
How about you? Do you plan ahead for your day with the 3 kids and the dogs and
I do. As far as food,
yeah.
yeah, we do plan ahead. I have gotten really out of the habit of it this summer, though. We're in the middle of this big remodeling project, and we are going on week number 5 now of barely being able to live in our house. And so it's been a little bit of a challenge this summer. But during the school year, my big tip is that I 5 days a week do crock pot meals. Well, usually start if we're having meat, we'll usually start cooking the meat during the day. And I have veggies and things already pre-chopped that I do at the beginning of the week. And then at the last like 30 minutes, I'll go throw in whatever fresh veggies to help like kind of basically steam them at the end. But we do a lot of meals like that during the school year just because I have people running all over the place with all kinds of rehearsals and practices and things. And it keeps us out of the fast food line that way.
And what are some of the things that your kids like or that you do that are, healthy and easy that they like?
Oh, good question. I did the other night, I did this salad bar, make your own salad bar. My oldest daughter, who is 20, hates salad. And so I've been working on her to get her to eat more salad. And so we did grilled chicken. And then I take like the relish tray, kind of a plastic container, and I will use all the different sections of it to put fresh fruit and chopped veggies so that I basically have a salad bar, and then I just stuff it in the fridge, and then we pull it out. We pull out the lettuce, and then there was our chicken, and that way everybody can have what they want. I do a lot of things like that where I have different pieces of a meal so that they can kind of make their own and make it the way that they want.
I really like that. I really do. And then once upon a time, I hated salad too. And I remember I was like in like grade school and I went to a neighbor's and she made the salad. Of course, it was iceberg lettuce back then, but she put ham and she put cheese and she put eggs. It was kind of, like a Cobb salad or something. And French dressing. Now, I'd never had the likes of that. I was like, this is good. And so she kind of turned me on to liking salad. And now I would eat, any kind of vegetable just about. And I love my vegetables. But I think just making it like what you said with this whole array of things they could choose from and making it fresh and fun and different ideas can introduce your children to something maybe they once hated. I mean, I am sure when my mother made me sit down to eat my vegetables, I mean, I had to clean that plate. She'd walk out and I'd find the garbage can and I'd shovel it down underneath. And I would be like, she'd come back and yeah, I'm done, And so literally I did not like my vegetables. I would swallow peas with my milk. I mean, because I just detested them. But now I am like the queen of vegetables, and because I learned to make them fresh, not out of a can, and just I guess steaming them and just learning to put a little spice on them and just I think vegetables can be fun. And for anybody out there that may hate vegetables, there's so many different ways to make them. And one of the ways I found that some of my clients began liking them is they grilled them with some olive oil and spices, like in the oven or on the grill. And it totally changed their world because they really did have that kid hatred, like of vegetables. They never grew out of it.
My husband and I both talk about how when we were growing up, we thought we hated green beans. And then we realized that the reason we hated green beans was because we always ate them out of a can growing up.
Yeah, I ate asparagus out of a can.
Them fresh, you're like, oh, this is good.
Asparagus and spinach out of a can. Can you imagine? I had never had
really it. Can't.
It's disgusting. I had never had it fresh. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. My girls. Oh, funny story. So when my husband and I first started dating, his dad, my father-in-law, still makes fun of me because when they met me, I would only eat spaghetti, nachos, and pizza. So I was a very picky eater and have since changed my ways. Super excited and proud of my girls because they, two of their specialty things that they like to cook, that they're the specialist in our house, Brussels sprouts and asparagus.
I love Brussels sprouts, especially if you shave them just straight. And oh my gosh.
Oh, they're good in a salad that way.
I love them. Love them. There's so many different ways, you guys, to fix vegetables. Just like if you hated running, you could love running. If you hate vegetables, you could turn yourself around. There's over 200 taste buds in your mouth, and if you get away from the overpowering taste of like nachos and Cheetos and Fritos and all the O's, you could get into your vegetables and just start liking the flavor, like maybe that you create. You'll surprise yourself. Just try different ways of creating your meals and you'll fall in love with your veggies.
Great tips.
So we've went over running veggies. Now we're going to go over something just a little more serious. Uh, Kimberly is a breast cancer survivor, and she once upon a time had to sit her children down for a conversation. And I just want her to kind of run over that, what was going through her mind, and how her life has changed since.
So it was 3 summers ago where I basically over Memorial Day weekend, we were getting ready to go on a fabulous Hawaiian vacation. And right as we were packing and we're getting ready, I get ready to get into the shower. And the light hit me just right as I turned toward the mirror and into my shower. And I saw this dimple on my breast. And I'm old enough that you could look at that dimple and go, oh, that's just cellulite. That's just things getting saggy. That's just old age. And I could have totally dismissed it. But something in my gut said, I need to get that checked out. So I already had an appointment made for a follow-up anyway, a couple of weeks later. So I went on my vacation, had a great time, tried to put this concern out of my mind. We came back, and in the beginning of June, we started what basically turned out to be a month's worth of testing. And the whole time I kept on saying, from the very first appointment, they started telling me it was breast cancer. And in my mind, I kept on saying, it is not breast cancer until they do a biopsy and that test shows that it's breast cancer. And I just kept on kind of denying it, but I think it was just my way of getting through a really tough 4 weeks. So we finally got to this point at the end of June where we finally met with the breast surgeon to get the results of the biopsy. And I have 3 very, very busy kids. They're all active in theater. I think they were all in the middle of some sort of a theater, either a camp or a show at the time. And my husband and I went off to this meeting with the breast surgeon at 5:00. And I sent my kids all a text and said, girls, we are having a family dinner tonight. No friends. You cannot have any friends. And we always have just, tons of kids running in and out. We have a pool. There's always a pool party, grilling, pizza. I mean, tons of kids in and out of my house. And so to them, this was really not normal for me to say, girls, no friends tonight. Be home when I get there. So my husband and I go, we find out that I have breast cancer. We come home and I have 3 girls lined up side by side on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, just looking at us like, oh my gosh, what are they going to tell us? And they knew that whatever we had to tell them wasn't going to be good news. And so we walk in and I try to tell them, girls, I have some bad news. Everything's going to be okay. And then my voice just starts cracking and I kind of have this choice. Am I going to tell them or am I going to just fall apart right now? And it was like, okay, I got to hold it together. And so I just looked at my husband and I was like, you have to do it. And so he's like, girls, your mom has breast cancer. And then everybody starts crying and we had this long emotional thing, but I was fortunate to have an early stage breast cancer. And because I had been so active and had been working out for so many years now, because this was years after the story of how I became a runner. I mean, I had a super good prognosis. So at no point did anybody ever tell me that I was going to die or that I had just a short time to live. So it was easy for me, I guess, to go into it with a positive mindset because, I had complete faith that I had the right people around me and the right doctors that everything was going to be okay. So yeah, we did a lot of crying that night and hugging. And finally, when the girls kind of had their minds wrapped around it. They started joking around about all of the horrible things that they thought we were going to tell them. And they were so relieved that it was, that sounds really bad, but that it was only breast cancer and that we weren't ripping their family apart or something, that all the horrible things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that was the beginning of that. And that was 3 years ago, July 1st, that we sat them down. And then coming up this August 20th, it'll be 3 years ago since I had a bilateral mastectomy. And then 3 weeks after that, they had, when I started that, they told me that I wasn't going to need chemo because it was an early stage. But then when you go in for your surgery, there's something called an oncotype test where they take a look at the cancer they took out of you and they basically type it to, get more information about it. And mine came back saying it was a slow growing one, but it was an aggressive one that would want to come back. And so because of that, I had to have chemo. So 3 weeks after my bilateral mastectomy, found out I was having chemo. Bless you.
I knew it was coming on.
And anyway, so that's kind of that little story. But yeah, so I had chemo, and
so that had to be very scary. Very scary. How did you
Yeah.
work through that, and how did your positive mindset aid you?
Well, a couple of things. First, in our house, we have what I call the 24-hour rule. And the 24-hour rule is, my girls are in theater. You audition for a role. If you don't like the role you got, you get 24 hours to pout at home. And then you snap out of it, get on with your life and move on. You're happy for your friends. You're happy about the role you have, and you move on. So I applied that to what I did, except for that I gave myself a little bit more than 24 hours because, cancer diagnosis is bigger than not getting a role you want, right? But I took about 2 days, 3 days to really just be down and cry and pout about it. And then I was like, okay, this is the reality now. We got to move on. What am I going to do? And so one of the first things I did was, I think I knew what I needed from people. So I knew that I have a very vivid imagination, and everybody wants to introduce you to their friend that has cancer. And that's great if you're somebody who that will benefit. That definitely helps some people. But for me, I'm like, I don't want everybody else's negative mindset affecting me. I don't want to hear all the horror stories.
You learned to shut out the noise of other people.
Yeah, so I had to figure out how to not listen to all those things, because I'm like, that will send me spiraling. So I made sure people knew, if you have something negative, I don't want to hear it. That was one. I also knew that I needed to be around my friends. And I mean, I really didn't even have to do anything. Everybody wants to know, what can we do to help? And I had friends, just people that I hadn't hung out with since my kids were little, in swimming lessons with their kids, who were contacting me. Hey, let's do lunch. Hey, let's do this. And it was so perfect because I had friends who would let me tell the same story 100 times, if that's how many times I had to say it to process it, but who would just be there. And that was really important. So I knew what I needed, and that was to be around people. And I also knew that I needed a way to have a purpose that was bigger than me, to give back. And so I came up with this idea. Again, we're kind of a musical theater family. So I took the Bye Bye Birdie logo, and I had one of my friends design it so it said Bye Bye Boobies. And I made these Bye Bye Boobies t-shirts. And it was really just going to be like a thing for me to make me feel better. But then once I started telling people about it, I had friends who wanted the t-shirts. And so I'm like, well, I guess we could sell them. And well, let's sell them for more than what they cost, and we'll donate the money to somebody else who needs it. And as it happened, around that time, there was another musical theater family in town we know that has 5 kids. And the dad was he was diagnosed with a rare form of, I think it was leukemia, but something that was just really, really bad. And he wasn't able to work, and they have 5 kids, and school's about to start. And so I'm like, well, here, this is something they need help. Anyway, so we donated the money from the shirts to this family to kind of help them with all the back to school expenses. So that was another thing that I did. I just
So
wanted
you
to,
channeled your positive energy into helping someone else that was in a
yeah,
dire situation like you.
yeah. So I, yeah, it kind of just took the focus off myself. And then another thing that I did was, I had a friend who told me, who had also been diagnosed with something different, but not fun before. And she said, take a picture every day. And I was like, that's really weird advice. Take a picture every day. But I did it. And it was one of the smartest things I did, because you get so fixated like on just surviving that negative time that you forget that even in bad times, you have to enjoy the process. You have to find a way to enjoy the journey. I have a daughter who is going to be a junior in college, and all she's ever wanted is to get out of school and get on with her life and start the next stage. And I always am telling her that you have to learn how to be happy where you are, because if you can't be happy right now, it doesn't matter where you go. If you finally get what you're trying to get, you still won't be happy. So this picture thing was a way for me to just find something positive every day. And even if I took a picture and I thought I looked like crap, funny thing is, when I go back 3 years later and look at those pictures, I remember the good things about every one of those days. I remember the thoughts behind those pictures. And even when I thought I looked horrible with my bald head or my shaved hair, I'm like, I was kind of cute. Even though at the time I thought I just looked hideous, I look at it now, I'm like, you're right. Those people really weren't lying to me. I was kind of cute with my little bald head. So those are just some of the things I did to keep my positive mindset. Um, Also, just really leaning on friends was important. After my mastectomy, so I was in amazing shape when I found out I had breast cancer. And my goal that year was to qualify for triathlon nationals for the next summer. And so, I mean, I was in really, really good shape.
I think it
And
really helps to have a goal in place when you're going through something
yes,
like that.
yeah. And so I was diagnosed. I mean, I basically started the process in June. So I had the entire summer race season, and I used that to channel my energy and just focus on just really pushing hard in every race, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to get another chance, but I really wanted to get those top, whatever podium places, finishes under my belt so that I could go to nationals the next year. And so I did do that. I qualified for nationals, which was exciting. But so, you come off all of this activity, and then you have to have surgery, and then you have to stop moving for while you recover, because that's a big surgery. And so I had friends who surprisingly were not really even big workout people, who volunteered to go walking with me when, because you don't really want to go walking by yourself right after surgery. But over the course of 2 weeks, I had different friends who would come walk with me, and we worked up to 6-mile walks, which is pretty big for right off of surgery, but also for people who just volunteered because they were trying to help me and they really don't even like walking that much. So that was another kind of fun thing we did.
Well, I love that. And I know for myself, I was gearing up for competition, and was last week basically, gearing up, working hard. I had several competitions since November, and gearing up for one that was very important to me. I'd set some high, lofty goals. And the night before leaving, I completely did not realize at the time that I competed that I had completely torn my hamstring.
Mhm.
And so I was at the competition and not realizing that it was completely torn. And
Oh
I
no.
was just using my mindset and listening to Todd Durkin with the hoodie dig deep. How bad do you want it? And, you got to have grit, you got to grind. And, so I was really like filling my head with all this positive mentality and thinking about what I wanted and praying, going to cryotherapy. I wasn't crying or anything, but it's that we get in the freezer, which actually really helped me feel like nothing had happened for a couple hours after each visit. And
Yeah.
so I got to the stage, decided I was gonna go for it, and I did. And you know, long story short, I had a complete avulsion of, and with very few fibers remaining. So I'm very pleased with how, how I came out at the show. But now the aftermath, after all the glory, after the show, is you have a complete tear in your hamstring. And so I woke up the other morning. I was feeling fine. I kept going. I was doing everything. I was in denial. I convinced the one doctor, I'm fine, I'm fine. I did a fitness routine, for crying out loud. I did 2 boot camps. I ran. I've done bleachers. I'm fine. What do you mean my hamstrings ripped? I'm
Right.
fine.
That doesn't
It
even
hurts a
make
little,
sense.
but and so I think I sold him on the fact of just rehabbing. And then I thought later, wait, what's the best case scenario? You know, what's I want to have 100% of my hamstrings. So now I'm going to somebody, maybe I'll have surgery. Whatever's the best is what I'm going to do. So I woke up after that. My coach had said, she was the first one that said, you're going to have to be strict on your diet, no plyos, no cardio, but spin bike. And I'm thinking, what are you crazy? Spin bike hurts like hell. I can't, I can't sit on it. I can't sit on my sit bone. It hurts to sit.
Oh,
I have a pillow right now underneath me.
oh,
And I'm thinking, running feels fine and all the other things feel fine, but sitting is out. And it was the first time someone had told me no, because all the other doctors had said, let pain be your guide. And
mm,
she's like, no, 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 this and this and this. And I felt limited. So I woke up the next morning. I woke up, I think, after all the voices you hear from all the different people with injuries, kind of mad and angry about the injury and depressed. And so I woke up with that, but then I flipped it. I flipped it around by the middle of the day to the end of the day. I started thinking about why did this happen for me? I need rest and repair. I need to start channeling that more in my life. And how can I look at all the positives that are there? First of all, I'm alive. Second of all, I can do everything. I mean, yes, I have a hamstring tear, but the one doctor said, well, if you completely, we'll just fix it. We'll just fix it. Don't worry. If something more happens, we're just going to fix it. So I'm not going to live in fear of everything I do. I'm just
right.
going to fix it if I have to fix it. So I just started channeling all this positive mindset and just stop listening to the voices. When I competed, I was in that present moment. It's the first time in my life I was in that moment. I was able to shut out all the voices of others, all the thoughts, all the judgment, and just be in the moment and not care about anything else. I was able to tune out the voices. I was able to dig deep within and find out I was stronger than I thought. And so I'm channeling that now for whatever I've got to go through and in the future. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, if I'm laid up with a hamstring injury, I'm going to write my book I've been wanting to write.
There you go.
Because otherwise I wouldn't sit still long enough,
Right.
right? I wouldn't have been sitting at our conference on the steps. I would not have been sitting because I would have been working out. I would have not missed my TRX class. I would have been 2 miles away. I would have never run into Mel Robbins. Heck,
Which
I
was
didn't even,
awesome.
I mean, like face to face. I thought it was a mirage. I'm sitting on the
That's so
steps and
cool.
like, Mel Robbins? Like, what? And so I got to have a bonding moment with her. And so I'm just saying, things happen for a reason. I would have never been there sitting. I would have been up
Mhm.
running off to the next class.
Yeah.
So why do you think these things, like that was an obstacle for me? Breast cancer was your obstacle. We all are going to have things in our life that happens to us that we have no control over, really. I mean, I didn't know I was going to rip my hamstring. I did that routine a million times. And you didn't know
Yeah.
that all of a sudden you're going to have an alarming call and a wake up call and have to have a mastectomy. So, why do you think that our stories are so important and coming out on the other side? What do you think is so important to know what your story is and be able to tell it?
Um, well, I think it's important for everybody to realize that we all have a story. We all have multiple stories, and our story matters. And we might think that the things you can't get in the habit of going, oh, well, she had breast cancer, and oh, her child is chronically ill, or whatever. You can't get in this thing of comparing yourself to what everybody else their thing is, and being like, oh, what I have to share isn't worth sharing because it's not
It's
as
not
bad.
anything, compared to
Yeah,
what they went
we
through.
all have something that has happened to us that makes us relatable, and sharing that story is a way to connect with other people. And as you share those stories, you don't know who you're helping. There's so many people who might hear my story the way I tell it, or but might not be able to relate to my version. But if I have a friend with breast cancer and she tells her story, maybe all of a sudden that story is relatable to them. So I think just always trying to share, just be real, and sharing what's really happening to yourself, what's really happening, so that you just never know who you're gonna help.
Well, I think a lot of us sometimes sit back in our story thinking it's insignificant, like you said. And also, sometimes stories, maybe you think it's TMI, too much to tell, like, too
Mhm.
much information, or you may have some shame or guilt around it. And I just think when you tell that story, you release yourself, first of all, from that shame and guilt. Second of all, you allow other people to feel free to be themselves and to be real and not these fake, media creations, like,
Mhm.
somebody else's media highlight reel,
Right.
you allow yourself to be real and others to be real, and you connect with more people that way when you're able to tell your story and you're able to just release yourself from feeling like it's less than, or that there should be some kind of shame or guilt involved. I think you help more people out there.
Mhm. Yeah, and I did have a couple of people when I was going through my treatment accuse me of being fake, and accuse me of, oh, you can't really always be that positive. But that was my way of dealing with it, my way of getting through this really challenging time. And I mean, I was surrounded by just so many people who were there to lift me up, who helped to raise my kids during that time. We just had an incredible amount of support. And so sometimes I kind of get a little bit grumpy or salty because I think, how dare you judge me because I was too positive when something bad happened. But I mean, that's just how I see life.
Well, they have fear surrounding it somewhat. And what I think also I'm seeing is that when you came forward with your story, it created connection and people wanted to reach out to you. And that's usually what happens, not the scenario we play in our mind of,
True.
oh, now nobody's going to want to be around me because I'm ill and I'm broken.
Oh, can I tell a story about that? So I was so afraid of losing my hair. And so when I found out I had chemo, that had to have chemo, that was the most devastating part of the whole thing.
Oh,
Which,
I bet.
on the backside of it now, I look at that and I think, okay, I know that sounds really silly and crazy, but I think especially as women, our hair is such a big part of our appearance. that is just really devastating. And my other big concern about that was that I didn't want people to look at me and think I was sick, because I didn't feel sick. When I went through chemo, the chemo portion, I had days, you kind of, depending on what kind of chemo you have to have, it's different for everybody. But basically you would have one good week, and then you would have chemo, and then you might have a couple of 3-4 days that are bad, and then you have another good string of days, and then depending on how often. So it was kind of like in every other week you felt good or you felt kind of crappy. And so I didn't feel sick. I wasn't letting myself act sick. I mean, I listened to my doctors, and, you know, there's all the things you have to do in terms of being sanitary and staying away from germs. And I did those things, but I was still active. I trained for a half marathon during my chemo my goal was to do,
That's so inspiring.
my goal was to do a 5K after every round and a half marathon at the end. And I wasn't fast at all, because you have to listen to your body and only do what your body will allow you. So you can't go after it, you know, I'm going to push myself really hard.
Right.
So,
Like right now, what I'm doing is the fraction of what I would normally do.
yeah. But, you know, again, I had different people who would volunteer to go run with me on, because right after a treatment, my husband was probably more cautious than I was. And he'd be like, you are not going out running by yourself. And so I had a neighbor who would go running with me, or my kids would ride their bike, just to make sure that, you know, I didn't collapse on the ground. But yeah, that, what were we talking about? Having people look at you and think you look sick. And I just didn't want people to look at me and feel sorry for me. And so one of the big memories I have is the day my hair started falling out. So my hair, I had a friend over, and we were having lunch by my pool, and I kept on doing this. And I was talking to her, and I would see these chunks of hair coming out of my hand. And so we had already decided that the day my hair started falling out, we would have a family hair shaving party. And so I'm like, Molly, I think I'm losing my hair. And then after she left, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm pulling it out by the clumps. And so then I kind of put it back in a ponytail so I would leave it alone.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and my daughter was in, I can't think of the name of the show, The Barber and the Pies. Anyway, she was in a show and had rehearsal until 9 o'clock, and we were all going to do this
I
together.
know what you're talking about, and I
Um,
can't think of it. It's not hair, is it?
no,
It's not.
I can't. This is Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd, and it's about a demon barber. Oh my gosh. You hear the guy? My guy that's working in my house is overpowering me with his saw. Anyway, so the whole show is about the demon barber, right? And so she gets done with her rehearsal, and I send out a text to the family, alert, alert, it's family haircutting night. And so while we're waiting for Sarah to get back from her rehearsal, I set up this whole scene in my bathroom. I have a pink sheet on the floor. I put my desk chair in the middle. I set up all the hair clippers.
Oh,
And my plan was always that I wasn't going to watch my hair fall out piece by piece, that we were going to have a fun family party to shave my head. So Sarah gets home from rehearsal. We all line up in the bathroom. This was probably more fun for me than it was for the girls, but
oh,
they were little, and I didn't want them to be scared of the fact that I was losing my hair. So, I mean, well, they're 3 years younger than they are now, but still, it seemed like they were little. My youngest one was young enough that would be kind of a scary thing. So we started off by letting them just kind of all take turns chopping it. And my youngest one kind of gave me a Dora the Explorer weird little bob. And then I kind of let them cut chunks of my bangs.
oh my
And
gosh.
just kind of went on, just kind of having fun with it. But then as we went on, they started cutting it up over my ears so I could kind of get a taste of some of the hairstyles I was going to have as my hair grew back out. And then at the end, my husband took the clippers and clipped it to, I think, about 1/8 of an inch. And that was my Demi Moore G.I. Jane look that
There
I
you go.
had until it all fell out. But, I just kind of tried to take the negative things and make them positives. And so then the next morning, I'm pretty much bald. And the other big thing I did was I asked a friend to come over and take me out. I said, when the kids get off to school, will you come over, help me figure out what to wear, and then just go out with me all day. Because my big fear was I didn't want people to take pity on me or to give me those sad eyes or to treat me like I was sick. And so I was like, just help me get out of the house for the first time. And so we made a whole day of going out for breakfast and shopping at boutiques and going out to Starbucks. And anyway, by the time we were done with that day, I felt like I could deal with the world and how they looked at me. And never once did a single person during that whole thing ever, at least within earshot of me, say anything about how I looked. It was just all my own fear that I had to get over.
Well, I bet you actually losing your hair was one of your most powerful moments ever because you realized your power doesn't come from your hair.
That's probably true,
It comes from
actually.
within. It
Yeah,
comes from your soul, from who
yeah.
you are. And people love you regardless of whether you have hair or don't have hair, right?
hmm But yeah, absolutely. But it's one of those things that I don't know of any woman who's ever gone through that who doesn't freak out about the hair.
Oh, I
But
I'm sure. I'm
yeah,
sure. I 100% can hear you on that. And I know like at our conference when I was doing the next TRX class that I did make, I thought, oh, don't let him single me out. Yep. He's gonna single me out. Here I am with this gimp hamstring. And, being an athlete, it's kind of hard for you to live down when you're not at your full
right.
capacity. So I'm like, all right, I'm not saying nothing. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want
And,
anybody to
and
know.
that's a great point because it doesn't have to be something like cancer. It could be, we all have those things where we don't want to be singled out. And so just coming up, for me, I called them mind tricks, coming up with that mental trick that you have to use to be able to get past that or through that and face whatever it is.
So what we had to do was sprinters start
Okay.
in the TRX, and
Uh-huh.
of course I didn't say a word. I just did it, but I must have done it flat-footed. I was doing it differently because of the hamstring,
Oh
and
no.
but flat-footed. He said it was fine, but he was showing the differences between the two of us. So I had to fess up about the hamstring. I did not want to. I was just gonna do it. And nothing happened, guys. Nothing happened. Nobody said a word. Nobody looked at me any different. Nobody was like, "Oh my God,"
Yep.
whatever my
Funny
fear
how that
was.
is.
I didn't want to. I did not want to confess it.
Yep. So much of that stuff is in our heads.
Yeah, so much of it. Well, I have so enjoyed this empowering conversation with Kimberly today, and I hope you guys have gotten something from all of our conversating today. And where can we reach you on social media?
So I am on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter as Power of Run. And my website is crushingmygoals.com. And I also have a podcast.
That's what I was going to ask too.
Yes, I also have a podcast. New episodes come out every Tuesday. It's called Power Up Your Performance. And it is just all about healthy things and mindset and just things to help women live, just up their game and live up to their potential. And there's a link to that is also at the top of the page on crushingmygoals.com.
And we will put all that in the show notes. What are 3 simple truths you can leave with the audience today?
Oh, goodness. I think a big one is find your tribe. Know who your people are because they will lift you up when you need them. And of course, you'll be there for them too. But find your tribe because there's just so much value in having other women who will lift you up. Enjoy the process. Always enjoy the process. Don't be in such a rush to get to where you're trying to go that you cannot appreciate the work that you're doing and just live life to its fullest in the moment. And remember that bad things happen to everybody. We will always, each of us will always have something that is challenging or something that we perceive as being the worst thing that could ever happen. And everybody has that moment. And what matters is how you think about it.
Your
The mindset,
perception.
the mindset that you choose will be what determines if it is actually the worst thing ever or something that you can work through and maybe even thrive as a result of.
I love it. Those are awesome. I'm definitely going to have to go back and listen to this again. That's how you always know if it's a good podcast. You want to listen again. And
Oh,
I just really want to acknowledge you so much for having so much energy, being so open, and just having such. I just love the way you think about. I love your mind. I love the way you think
oh, thank
about
you.
things and how you really flipped this whole cancer thing on its ass and you made it a positive for your family, for your children, for everyone out there listening right now, and for your friends. And so I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, I'm impressed with your positivity.
Oh, thank you so much. And it was so fun getting to talk to you again. We spent a little bit of time together when we were in San Diego, but it's never enough. So it was nice to talk to you.
It's never enough when you're connecting with good people. And
Right.
I just want to thank everybody today for listening, and please review us in iTunes and reach out if you have any comments that you want Kim to answer, and we will make sure she responds. Thank you,
Absolutely.
everyone. Thanks for listening to the Sisterhood of Sweat.